Good morning, guys. It's Monday, and I know this has been kind of a weird week. We have conferences going on, library dates, trying to play catch up from the hurricane and from that missed time and that missed day, which turned out to really kind of shake things up a little bit. So what I want to do is give out a few announcements, just by kind of showing you the page and walking you through some things for the coming week. The first announcement that I want to make and kind of clarification is if you look here, that's a terrible circle. You will notice that these dates have been changed with catching up from the hurricane and with things getting kind of pushed back a little bit with conferences and everything kind of piling up. What I wanted to do was extend a couple of those dates. We already had the portfolio check activity, which is the makeup work for Tuesday, for tomorrow, when we have class canceled because I'm not going to be there. And I wanted to go ahead and also extend the research poster revision just because I have a few people that I'm still kind of working in, and I want to have it the same date for everybody. So we're going to push that back to Thursday, and also the studio work. I'm hoping what that does is it gives everybody like one clear date to remember. This Thursday at 11:59 p.m. is when things are due, and it also gives you some time during this week to send me emails if you have questions, or also when we're in the library on Thursday, it gives you a chance to ask some face-to-face questions while you're working on your research and have some of that free time before you have to turn things in. And I think that'll just keep everything kind of neat and clean for everyone. Let's see. Number 2 is this portfolio check. So this is the activity that we're doing again to replace tomorrow. So it is due Thursday, 9/27. You're welcome to email me with questions. Work it replaces this Tuesday. So this is what we would have done in class. And there are, I'm not sure if on here my screencast, I can actually watch it. There is a screencast directions with me kind of walking you through the activity the way I would have in class. And there's also just a set presentation without my face and my voice that you can look at if that's what floats your boat. Let's see, more announcements. Okay, so for studio work, if you haven't started it yet, and you go into Studio, you click on Studio 3, here's what you're doing. So again, there's a couple different activities. It's basically helping you. I'm going to refresh this because this student example didn't pop up well. So it has an error. That's okay. So this is also due by Thursday, and you're using those search terms and search sentences, which you're going to come up with in this presentation to do the work. So you're going to have one document that you're going to open, and what you're going to do is you're going to go through this presentation. Again, there is a screencast of me walking you through it for you to pause along the way. Or if there's a regular presentation, you can kind of go through, and you might not need my voice to get this done, but the goal for the presentation, and it's also explained in the presentation itself if you watch it, is to come up with 2 new research questions that you haven't thought of yet, some smaller, more specific questions, just so you're always in the habit of thinking, what else can I figure out? What else do I need to know? What have I read that I now have a new question about? And also to come up with some what I call word groups or search sentences to help you get at some of those smaller questions, and then that's what you'll be doing. So step 1 is to view the presentation, complete the work. Step 2 is to make sure that you have at least 6 of those search sentences you're prompted for in the presentation. Make sure you kind of revise that list and done what the presentation has asked you to do with those terms. Step 3 is to research and record on the document is your 2 new questions you came up with in the presentation, your keywords that you came up with during the brainstorming, and then your 6 search sentences. And all that should already be done just when you were watching the presentation. For each one, once you've recorded the work that you did for the presentation, for that activity, you are going to write down each of your 6 search sentences. You're going to use them. So you're going to go to Google, you're going to look up all those word groups, and for each one find one new source that you haven't tried yet, used yet, you didn't use it in your research poster. It's brand new, looks credible, looks helpful, relates to something that you're really trying to look up. So one useful source at least from each of those words. So searching each of those different sets of words. And then, so this is where we are. If you're on the page, we're in this highlighted area here. So you're going to be recording your 2 new questions, the keywords you came up with, your 6 search sentences. For each of your search sentences, you're going to record at least one new source with a hyperlink and 1 to 3 sentence overview of that source. So the kind of text it was. So was this a website? Was this a blog? Was it a newspaper article? And maybe another sentence about what it was about, what it was for. Was it like a fact sheet with some information on it? Was it reporting a recent event? What was it? And what that also does is it pushes your research further along really fast, and gets some sources for you to kind of sift through later. And also when you come back to them, it kind of gives you a little reminder of what it was. The last part of this activity is, let me erase, is reflect. So read through a couple of the sources that you found, not everything. As you're going through and you're pulling them up, you're going to kind of give them a skim through, and you're going to record them. You can come back to them later. You're going to reflect on a couple of things. Most useful 1 or 2 sources you came across. What did you find useful? Reference some specific information. Did you come across anything that stood out to you? So something maybe that you learned. Did you encounter any problems during the process? This is specifically referencing the presentation. Describe any new research techniques you tried out from the presentation. The last part of the presentation gives you 10 tips to make your search a little bit more efficient, and I ask you to use one of those tips. And reflect on any new insights you have about research. So it could be how to approach inquiry, a new maybe habit of mind you thought of, maybe you hadn't really done a lot with coming up with synonyms, or maybe you thought some of the techniques were helpful. It could be anything. So any new insights that you maybe have, and about 300 words. And then I think it's going to let me go to the next page. There it is. And then you're going to submit your document. One document that has your work from the presentation, your research with the things I ask you to record, and it's I think 300 words with maybe 3/4 of a page reflection on what you found. Okay, so I'm going back to the home page, and I just want to pull up the calendar so that you can see what's kind of happening on Thursday. So on Thursday, we're going to be in the library. Everything is in Atkins 124, so the same room. I know we had some weird switch ups, so if they have any weird last minute room changes, you'll be getting an announcement from me. But for right now, the room is set in Atkins 124 with devices provided. Okay, so we're back on the home page, and the last thing that I really want to touch on is this research poster revision that's now due on the 27th instead of the 25th, just to kind of give people, especially people who are going on Monday, a little bit more time, and just to have that clear due date, like I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this announcement. And I want to talk about the rubric a little bit. So it's basically the same as the rubric for the draft. It just kind of checks whether or not you have your visual evidence, the right prompts, your 4 sources there. Please make sure you have a references section on your poster and either internal citations or hyperlinks inside the presentation, so I can tell where your sources were used. To have at least 5 specific questions for your research questions. That was the major thing that a lot of people got, was new research questions and tips for how to either clarify or narrow what their LOI idea was. Genre use, so if you made any revisions or things for tone, language, making it appropriate, making it a research poster, taking out uses of I, making sure your poster is reader friendly, things like that. 2 new things that I'm going to draw your attention to is this section here. Terrible circle again. I'm really good at this. That you've submitted a reflection, 200 to 300 words. How your lightning talk went, what was notable that was brought up by peers, how you felt about your first draft, what things you struggled with putting it together. So that process, putting together the first one, what revisions you made. So what kinds of things have you worked on and why? What kinds of things did you add? And what questions or concerns you maybe still have. 200 to 300 words is maybe like half a page, double spaced, normal font, that kind of stuff. So mostly just to kind of let you know where you are with things. And what you've been working on, and then revision efforts. So you said what kind of feedback you got from peers, what kind of feedback you got from me. Did you work on it and make some changes? Okay. And I think that is it. So during this week, feel free to email me, ask me questions at your lightning talk if you haven't gone yet. Otherwise, I will see everyone on Thursday, and all of the work for this week will be due Thursday at 11